It was my 14th birthday, the one I had been looking forward to for months. I had big plans for the day, the kind of plans you make when you believe life is still full of endless possibility. I had always felt older than my age, a trait my mother lovingly referred to as my old soul. While my peers were wrapped up in the latest TikTok trends and Netflix series, I found solace in the quiet moments that others might overlook. In a world that moved faster every year, I preferred the slower rhythms. I enjoyed volunteering at Seattle Children's Hospital, a place that felt more like home than a sterile building. Maybe it was because my dad worked there as a pediatrician, and I had been shadowing him since I was little. But more than that, I genuinely cared about the children I helped. Some days, I would read stories to young patients. Other days, I would organize the playroom or simply sit with the children, offering a comforting presence during their difficult days. It was where I found my peace, connecting with these kids who, despite facing unimaginable challenges, still found the strength to smile. That Saturday morning felt like any other, until it wasn't. The weather had its usual winter gloom with a soft drizzle falling over Seattle. The rain tapped against my bedroom window as I dressed for the day, the familiar scent of my mom's birthday pancakes with extra chocolate chips filling the house. My little brother Kevin was arguing with me about who would get the last piece of bacon. It was the kind of day where everything felt exactly right. A normal morning where the present and future felt seamlessly woven together, with no way of knowing that everything would change. My excitement surged when I remembered what Dad had promised, that I would be able to shadow him during his rounds at the hospital. He'd finally pulled some strings and it felt like the perfect birthday gift. I was looking forward to seeing the hospital through his eyes, understanding the inner workings of the medical world beyond the confines of my volunteer role. Little did I know, this day would be the turning point of my life. The first signs of trouble. The morning had unfolded peacefully. We drove to the hospital, a place that always felt comforting to me, despite its sterile smell and the hustle of doctors and nurses rushing through the hallways. It was a place of healing, of life and death, and it felt like a heartbeat in the center of the city. My dad's laughter and warm presence had always been a source of calm, and I felt special walking alongside him, observing how he worked. We had made our way to the pediatric ward by mid-morning, and I was ready for the day to unfold. Our third patient visit was with a boy named Tommy. Tommy was 7 years old and recovering from an appendectomy. He had bright blue eyes and a mop of messy hair that his mother had tried, unsuccessfully, to tame before our visit. I stood at the foot of his bed, telling him a series of terrible knock-knock jokes to lighten the mood. His laughter filled the room, a sound I will never forget. But then, without warning, the headache hit. It wasn't like the normal headaches I'd had in the past. This was sudden, sharp, and explosive. It felt as though fireworks were going off in my head. The pain was so intense I couldn't focus. My vision blurred, and the world around me seemed to spin. I reached out for something, anything that could steady me. My hand brushed the bed rail, but something was wrong. It wasn't solid. It was as if my hand passed through it, and suddenly, I felt disconnected from everything around me. I tried to speak, to warn Dad, but my voice was gone. The last thing I remember was Tommy screaming my name, his innocent cry filled with fear as my father's hurried footsteps approached. Then, everything went black. The discovery. The doctors later told me I had something called an arteriovenous malformation, AVM. It was a tangled mess of blood vessels in my brain, a time bomb that had been ticking away silently since birth. It had ruptured that morning, causing a massive hemorrhage in my brain. The doctors said I was incredibly lucky that I survived. But they didn't know the half of it. I didn't know it at the time, but when my heart stopped, when my body went limp and lifeless on that hospital floor, I didn't just die. I crossed over into a realm that most people never experience. The transition. I remember the moment when the darkness of unconsciousness gave way to something else. I wasn't dead in the way that most people think of death. I didn't feel cold or alone. I felt weightless, free. I was no longer bound by the limitations of my physical form. There was no pain, there was only peace. And then I felt a tug, a gentle pull, as though someone were calling me from a distance. Slowly, I drifted toward it. And as I did, I realized something extraordinary. I was no longer in the hospital room. The light that beckoned me wasn't ordinary. It wasn't just bright. It was alive. It shimmered with an energy that radiated warmth and comfort, wrapping around me like the world's most loving embrace. A reunion. She appeared before me, but not in the way I had always remembered her. The images I had of her from photos when she was bedridden and frail faded into the background as she stepped forward. The woman before me was radiant, glowing with a vibrant light that seemed to come from within her. She was young, beautiful, and full of life, the way Mom had always described her before illness had taken its toll. "Emma," she said. Her voice didn't come through her lips. It came directly into my mind, clear and resonant, as if the very essence of her being was speaking to me. "There's so much you need to see." And then I began to understand. The in-between realm. My grandmother led me through the in-between place. This was a realm that existed outside of time and space where souls reside between life and death. It wasn't a place of judgment, but rather one of learning. There were rooms, each filled with souls of all ages and backgrounds, each one learning and reflecting on the choices they had made in their lives. It was as if they were watching a movie of their lives, only it wasn't like watching a movie on Earth. It was more personal, more visceral. Each soul relived their moments of kindness, their words of anger, their actions of love or cruelty, and they felt everything as if they were experiencing it all over again. I saw how the souls weren't punished for their wrongdoings, but instead, they were given the opportunity to understand. They saw the ripple effects of their actions, how a single word or a small act of kindness could alter someone's life in ways they couldn't possibly imagine. The goal wasn't to condemn or reward. It was to help each soul grow, learn, and evolve. I saw souls healing too. Some of them were weighed down by burdens, guilt, anger, fear, addiction, and in this place, beings of pure light helped them release these painful emotions. These beings, angels perhaps, though I couldn't say for sure, offered love and compassion in its purest form. It was here that I first understood the power of forgiveness, the ripple effect of kindness. My grandmother showed me how forgiveness creates ripples, not just here on Earth, but throughout the entire universe. I witnessed how each act of kindness, no matter how small, created waves of positive energy that spread outward, touching lives in ways that were far beyond our understanding. I saw that the things we often think of as insignificant, the moments we share with others, the times we offer a helping hand, the way we treat people, were the very things that mattered most. She showed me moments from my own life too. I saw how the simple act of sharing my lunch with Sarah Jenkins in 3rd grade, when she had forgotten hers, had changed something in her life. How it had made her feel seen, valued, and cared for. These small acts of kindness had far-reaching consequences. I couldn't comprehend all of them, but I saw enough to understand that every little gesture of love mattered. Love beyond death. But the most incredible part of what my grandmother showed me was the truth about death. Love doesn't end when someone dies. It changes form. I saw my grandmother still guiding and watching over our family. She was there with Mom, helping her through difficult days at work, standing by Dad as he performed surgeries, and even watching over Kevin when he lost his science project. The people we love never truly leave us. They continue to influence and guide us in ways we can't see, but that doesn't make them any less real. And then, she showed me something truly remarkable. I saw potential futures, hundreds of them, branching out like the leaves of a giant tree. Some of the futures were beautiful, filled with hope and joy. Others, not so much. The choices we make today shape the path we walk tomorrow. It's more than just the big decisions. It's the small, seemingly insignificant choices, the return to Earth. The next thing I remember was the sensation of being pulled. This time, not upwards toward the light, but back down. It wasn't as soft as the first tug. It was a strong, insistent pull, like the force of gravity calling me back to Earth. I tried to resist, but it was as if I had no choice. My body, my mind, and my very essence were being drawn back to the hospital room, back to the life I had known, but with a new understanding of everything. Then I gasped for air. My lungs expanded, my chest heaved, and the familiar cold touch of reality came crashing down. I was back. I was in my body again, lying on the hospital floor with my dad kneeling beside me, tears streaming down his face as he held me tightly, whispering my name over and over. He was shaking, overwhelmed with emotion, as if he could hardly believe that I was alive. Tommy, the little boy I had been joking with earlier, was still there, his stuffed dinosaur clutched tightly in his hands. But now his face was a mixture of tears and relief. His small, fragile frame, which had once been filled with fear, was now glowing with an unmistakable sense of hope. He smiled through his tears, his innocence untouched by the horror of what had just happened. A changed perspective. The days after my return were a blur. Doctors ran every test imaginable, trying to understand how I had survived. But no one could explain what had happened to me during those 6 minutes and 13 seconds. It wasn't a medical miracle, it was something far greater than that. It was an awakening. Things seemed different now. Colours were brighter, sharper, more vivid. Music had a deeper resonance, as if each note carried an emotion I had never been able to fully appreciate before. People. I could see them in a way I never had. I didn't just see their faces or their bodies. I saw their light, their potential, their struggles, their beauty. It was as if my awareness had expanded, allowing me to perceive the world around me with a depth that went beyond the physical. I could still feel the presence of the other realm. It wasn't as vivid as when I had crossed over, but it was there, in the quiet moments of the night, when everything else was still. I could sense it, like a gentle hum in the background, reminding me of the profound truth I had learned. That love is the answer, always. A gift of knowing. I resumed volunteering at the hospital, but things were different now. The children I helped, the patients I interacted with, they weren't just people to me anymore. They were souls, each one carrying a story, a journey, and a light of their own. When I walked through the hospital halls, I could feel the presence of their guardian angels watching over them. I could sense their quiet support, the whispers of love and comfort they offered. It wasn't always clear, but sometimes, when I was very still, I could hear those angels, soft, kind voices telling the patients that everything would be okay. Sometimes I would stand in a room, quietly observing a patient in pain or distress, and I would hear the angels whispering words of comfort to them. It wasn't anything overt or dramatic, just a simple message of peace, of assurance. It felt like a secret I had been entrusted with, and it became my quiet mission to share that peace with others in whatever way I could. The challenge of explaining the unexplainable. The hardest part of my experience wasn't what happened to me. It was trying to explain it to others. How do you describe something as ineffable as what I had experienced? How do you articulate the feeling of floating through a realm of pure light, the understanding of life and death, the certainty that love is the force that binds everything together? How do you make someone believe something that seems so impossible, so beyond the realm of normal experience? I remember trying to tell my mum about it, about the light, about my grandmother, about the souls I had seen and the healing that took place. But how do you explain colours to someone who has never seen them? How do you describe music to someone who has never heard it? No matter how hard I tried, words never seemed to do it justice. It was as if language couldn't capture the depth of the experience, the transformative nature of what I had witnessed. The ripple effect of love. One of the most important things I learned in that in-between place was that we are all connected. Every person, every soul, is part of a vast and intricate web of life that stretches far beyond what we can see with our eyes. Every word we speak, every action we take, no matter how small, has an effect on the world around us. It creates ripples, like drops of water falling into a still pond, spreading outwards in ever-widening circles. When I volunteered at the hospital, I began to see the impact of those ripples. I would see the little acts of kindness, someone sharing a smile, a nurse offering a comforting word to a scared child, a doctor holding the hand of a patient in need. And I would feel the energy of those acts. I could sense how they created a wave of positivity, how they rippled out into the world, touching lives in ways we could never fully comprehend. A new understanding of life. Now, when I look at the world, I see it differently. I see people not just as bodies walking around, but as souls carrying stories, struggles, and potential. I see the beauty in the smallest moments, the quiet kindnesses that often go unnoticed. And I feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the gift of life, no matter how short or uncertain it may be. Death, I have come to understand, is not the end. It is not the final chapter. It is simply a transition, a graduation to another phase of existence, one that is filled with growth, love, and learning. The souls of those we have lost are still with us, guiding us, watching over us, and helping us in ways we can't always see or understand. And above all, I have learned that love is the answer. It always has been. It is the force that holds the universe together, the energy that binds us all, and the reason we are here. Every act of love, no matter how small, creates a ripple that extends far beyond the boundaries of our understanding. So, the next time you have a choice between being right and being kind, choose kindness. The next time you see someone hurting, reach out and offer comfort. The next time you wonder if your life matters, remember that every single thing you do creates ripples that affect the entire universe. Because in the end, we are all connected, every single one of us. And love is the answer, always.